Hey everybody, my name is Tanner Rocco. I'm the team lead for the EPICS program on the Bridge to Africa e-learning lab for fall of 2021. Today I just wanted to show a little bit more about the project, what Django's all about, and maybe even helping you get the site set up on your local machine in the process. So bear with me, I am using a Windows machine and utilizing VS Code as my IDE. I highly recommend VS Code. As for how we get started, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the installation at first. So in order to get this working, we need a few things for this project. Mainly just having Python installed and Git. So the requirements are listed on the README. So you need to have Git and the links here, Python as well. So if you went over to Python, you'd get this. Go to downloads, and then select your download for your specific machine. Now to go to Git, you can type in Git, it's git-scm.com at this moment. You can go here and then you can download it from here for your preferred system. And I think pretty much you can just take the defaults on most of these. If you want to look up specific things for like the Git, I know I installed like Git Bash for instance. There's certain things you might want to choose over the other. I'm not too familiar with any of these, but just so you know, that's an option. And once you have those two, you should be able to check to see if they're there. So if I go over to VS Code, which I have installed, maybe I'll pull that up as well. So VS Code, you can just go to VS Code, Visual Studio Code, and this is just Microsoft's IDE. And you can select your specific platform and download from there. All right. Now, if I go back to Visual Studio, I can check to make sure everything was installed. To check that Python installed, just type in Python. It'll tell you the version number, but it'll also enter you into the shell, so I'm just going to exit that. And then you can also check for Git. So if you type Git, it should list all the Git commands. All right, now I'm just going to download the new, I guess the entire repo right now, and this repo is probably going to change soon, so some of these like URLs or whatnot, some of these folders might change their name, but the process should be the same regardless. So I could just copy this all and run it, but I'm going to first just git clone, and git's clone essentially grabs that and puts the source code onto your local machine. So this might take a while or it might not. Usually what takes a while is downloading everything onto in terms of the Python requirements. So now I can go into that new folder that was just brought. I believe it's called Virtual Learning Lab. Maybe not. Let's see what it's called. E-Learning Lab. CD E-Learning Lab to get into there. Now I can open this up in code. So actually, I think there's probably a command to open it in this current window, but I'm just going to type in code and then dot, and this will open another window in VS Code with the project in it. And for the project, you can see Visual Studio has a welcome thing, but here's our project with the Virtual Learning Lab as our root, and then kind of all our apps and our components. Media to store user uploads, static file to hold static served images, videos that we need on our site directly from the developer end. And then assets, I believe, is just a collected folder that gets migrated into static after collect static is ran. So that's just a tiny bit of an overview. I'm sure there are plenty of tutorials showing you how to get Django installed onto your machine and whatnot. I'm just going to continue going through the README. So I already did this. I accessed that folder, and now I'm going to activate my virtual environment. And you need to have, you need to have a virtual environment. Not necessarily. I think it's just a good practice. So virtual env provides an isolated Python environment where you can install packages at that level, so rather than system-wide, and you don't need administrative privileges. So it's basically a contained environment to install your dependencies for this specific project, and avoid having multiple different dependencies clash or whatnot from outside. So that's just a bit about the virtual NVDA. There's some greater detail online, I'm sure, that you can find as well. If we go into here, I'm just going to paste that, and this should create a virtual env file, and it did. So maybe that would work, but I'm just going to skip that for now. So it's creating that, and it looks like it finished that. So now I'm just going to swap over and activate that virtual environment. So this essentially will create a Python environment, which I can activate code from. So it, at least in VS Code, I'm using PowerShell, but it will inform you that you're in a virtual environment. So just moving on, the last thing we really need to do before we start running this is install all our requirements. And my requirements might load very quickly. We'll see. Actually, it should take a while since I did create a little bit of a new environment, so it'll probably take a while to install some things. Some things might be cached by your system or whatnot. But yeah, this is probably going to be the longest wait in terms of setting things up. So I'm just going to wait around a little while. And a lot of these requirements you can see are in this requirements.txt. All right, looks like that went well. Usually it'll throw errors. We'll see if it works now. So the last thing was to run the app with python manage.py.run server. And manage.py is kind of just a script to perform some utilities, and we're just executing it and running the run server command from there. So if we go back over, we will see if this all worked out. So python, manage.py.py run server. All right, and if everything went well, it'll say perform system checks, and then it'll tell you your Django version or whatnot, and it will say starting development server at this localhost 8000. And if you follow that link, you will see that the e-learning lab is here. And that is basically how you get it on your local machine and start developing and being able to visually see the changes as you go through. I believe that is all for this video. I'll probably go into more depth in another video just to separate these two things out. Thanks for watching.